Welcome to Autism Tips and Tools, where we highlight the best practical guidance from previous episodes of Autism Knows No Borders. Whether you're a self-advocate, a family member, or a service provider, there's something here for you. I'm Rachel Harmon, a professional in the field of autism services, outreach, and advocacy, and the following clip is from my conversation with the CEO of the Global Autism Project, Molly Ola Pinney. Leadership training has always been at the foreground of support provided by the Global Autism Project. We believe that everyone has the potential to be a leader in their own lives, and we foster this mindset with our international partners to ensure that they continue to lead the movement of autism awareness and acceptance in their own communities. Here's Molly defining what strong leadership is and what values are important to her as a leader.
Ultimately, I think that there's no one right way to be a leader. I think that a lot of people feel like, I'm not outgoing enough, or I'm not charismatic enough, or I'm not a people person. And what I've come to see over the years is that all of those types of leadership work, whether you're someone who's leading with vision and action, whether you're someone who's leading with empathy, it's like there's a spot for all of that. And some of that's going to resonate, better with others. And I think in terms of what is a strong leader, it's someone who recognizes where they are inclined to lead from and also is mindful of that, right? And sort of not, I don't want to say compensates, but really just keeps that in context and makes sure that they're consistently looking at, if I'm someone who leads from a place of vision and action, how do I inject more empathy into my leadership? Mm-hmm. It's a fun question. And to me, there's no one answer. I think it really varies. I think we see different styles of leadership being effective all over the world.
Mm-hmm. And I guess sometimes people imagine a strong leader to be someone who's really authoritative and very opinionated and knows what they want and is able to delegate efficiently and effectively. And sometimes that might not be the best leader for that team.
Yeah.
We've talked about people being natural leaders or just fitting into roles kind of organically. Would you say that everyone has the potential to be a leader in some capacity in their lives? Or, sometimes you hear people who would prefer to take the back seat and let others drive. Mm-hmm. Is there such thing as too many leaders in the world because we need followers in certain positions?
I think the reality is a lot of people are not even leaders in their own lives. When I talk about leadership, I'm not necessarily talking about rallying groups of people around you, but taking on leadership in your own life. And when you really look at who's making the decisions and who's driving the show of your own life, where are you giving up that leadership? I will also share that I've had a number of people in my life who have said, I'm just not really a leader. It's just really not for me. And we've said, okay, got it. Got it. And then we do a really cool exercise with SkillCore with some of our leadership training where it's like, okay, I don't know myself to be a leader, but what if I was? What would that look like? And some of our strongest leaders are people who were like, I could try it on. I could see what it's like. And it's like, oh my gosh. When we think about leadership, we think about, like you said, really authoritative and really sometimes demanding. And yes, there's decisive action that needs to be taken. And also, there is an opportunity to lead from where you are. I talk a lot about doing with and not for. And I think leadership is the same, right? Lead together. I'm not going anywhere my team's not going.
Right. I remember you saying one time, the goal of the leader is to make sure their team wins, and the goal of the team is to make sure their leader wins.
Yeah. And when you look at it from that perspective, it's a place where we all win. Mm-hmm. And it's a really powerful place to be. And it's a place that as we navigate the world, we don't necessarily think about that. We think about there are winners and there are losers, and that's the way it goes. Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at the leader from the leader's going to win and the team's going to lose, or the team's going to win, it's like, that doesn't work,
Right. So what values are most important to you as a leader?
That's a good question. Ultimately, I think communication is one. We teach a lesson called No Difficult Conversations, and that is really just about creating the possibility of no difficult conversations. I think communication is definitely one. I firmly believe that anything in the world can be solved through communication. And it depends where you come from in that conversation, And I think that it's like you can't help but look around the world and look around the divides in this country and the world and say, like, have you ever just talked about it? Like, have you ever just had a conversation? So I think my primary value in leadership is communication. And what I have found running a company for close to 20 years is that you kind of can't communicate too much about what's going on, what's in your world, what's in your space, what's coming up for you. And then I think that, another value is really just, it's not so much a value, but being decisive, right? And being confident in that decisiveness is important in leadership as well. So yeah, but my primary one is definitely communication.
Right. I can definitely second that. Yesterday during our partner call, we went around and we were talking about what we've learned about leadership, which we'll get to later in this conversation too.
Oh, it was so good. Yeah.
Yeah. Something that I shared was that I've really become present to the power of language. And I think, to your point of being able to communicate during difficult or challenging conversations is so important because what we say matters and what we don't say matters too.
Yeah.
And so just being in that space of not being afraid to speak up for what needs to be said is really powerful and can change how other people are perceiving that situation also.
100%. And I remember I've been really fortunate over 2020 to do some executive coaching with some folks who run big companies. And one of the things that I share with them is a practice that changed my life entirely, probably about 6-ish years ago, which is literally at the end of the day, I in my head go, is there anything I stepped over? Is there any communication that I just stepped over? Is there anything that I let slide? Is there anything, and that was a work in progress, right? It was like, I first started with making a list of like what I'm tolerating in my life, at work, at home, whatever, because what you tolerate is what you get, right? And then what I realized as I looked at that tolerate list, it was like, oh, I'm tolerating this person who's doing X, Y, Z, and it's driving me nuts. And I guess it's been driving me nuts for 6 months. So 6 months ago, I had an opportunity to be in communication. So that practice of like what got stepped over makes such a difference. That practice of like what at the end of the day is incomplete and just cleaning it up in that moment. And when you look at communication as, this complex interaction, it's daunting and it's frightening, right? When you look at it as like, there's something that's going to be said, there's something that's going to be heard. It's like, okay, cool. Let what wasn't said, what wasn't heard, right? So it just clarifies all of that.
Thanks for tuning in to Autism Knows No Borders. Would you like to hear how Molly stopped being afraid of becoming a leader and what she's learned about leadership over the years? Follow the link in the show notes for the full conversation, and be sure to subscribe for more stories from people connected to autism, inspiring change and building community. Let's work together to transform how the world relates to autism. Thanks for listening. Take care.